So we have time for...
My name is Jim Aycock.
Can you speak up, please?
Can you speak up?
My name is Jim Aycock. I'm not representing a group, but I should say I'm married to Patsy Keeter. More at four. As the legislature cut the funds, a judge has ordered it back. The governor has used the authority she has, and I don't know the nature of it in that case. But that's all three branches of government in direct conflict. Who's going to end up with the power and have their way? Who decides who ends up prevailing in that case?
Well, at this point, the legislature is acting, I think, shamefully. They're essentially ignoring the court. The court is said. Well, you know, ultimately, there are judges, perhaps, who will have the guts to I mean, ultimately, I think it comes down to that. I think that's what's going to happen.
Already has. So where does it go from here?
Lawyers are working on that, I think. But, I mean, you know, there's no clear-cut answer. I mean, there have been politicians throughout American history who've tried to ignore the courts. And, you know,
Bill for contempt sounds good.
yeah, that might be nice. A little contempt hearing, but I don't have a clear answer, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Philip Bowditch from West Asheville, and I've been here 4 years, so I'm just catching up to state politics. I'm a musician. My question about the voter ID bill is I haven't heard much discussion about who's going to pay for it. You mentioned state funding. I might have believed the trucks are going to go driving out to every little hamlet and give everybody their free IDs.
No, and Chris can chime in on this too. So what, if you look at like states like Georgia, you would have to offer people a North Carolina voter identification card. So funds would go to set up first sites for people to go to, and secondly, so here's my point on that. If my mom wakes up that morning and she forgot her purse, then now she needs to go to the DMV to get a card where she's voted at the same location for 17 years, and the judges, but it is an expense that they would have to physically offer a situation where they'd make
Mine
the
is
cards.
sort of, I guess, a constitutional question. Is there anything that fees or anything like that the voters will have to pay? Because if so, doesn't that make it a poll tax?
Right. So and the way they're getting around it, Christopher, in Indiana, which was one of the first states that they took it to the Supreme Court, the courts said you've got to offer a free option. So it's free to the person, it's not free to the state. So we
pay for it.
So I'll even give you the example that right now they've frozen money that was going to be used for public financing of elections. We believe that they'll come around and try to take that money to help supplement that charge for making federal money.
They're banking on the fact that people won't do it. That's their plan. They think that some people might, but for the most part, it goes to wait. Over time, fewer people will vote. That's what this is all about.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Valerie Cole. I would like to know if you will have on your website eventually all the candidates that we should be voting for, or finding more about what their issues are. And if, for instance, here I'm starting an organization for women, so to get more women out to vote. If we do something like that, we're going to educate ourselves on the different issues. Will we be able to link up with your organization so that it will become more national, statewide?
Well, Progress NC has the outofcontrolnc.com website that talks about this extremist agenda. Most of the organizations that are part of this are 501c3 organizations that don't endorse candidates. The AFL-CIO makes endorsements, but we generally communicate that only to union members. But certainly there are progressive sources, progressive publications that make endorsements. Lillian's List endorses female candidates running for office. So there's different organizations that provide information. But we certainly hope that all the folks here will make sure if you've signed in that you will stay engaged with us. And like I said, the Out of Control NC website is a great source of information for what this legislature is up to. And it is critical that we educate folks around the state about this so that they can make informed decisions when they go to the polls.
I'd also like to throw in, so us on the C3 part, since we can't talk candidates and we talk issues, you can look and you will find scorecards on our websites so you can look and see what the issues are important to you, and you can see how the candidates have voted, if they've voted in the past, if they've been a candidate, if they're an incumbent. If not, you can ask them how they stand on it. I will say that in here, Representative Kiefer and Representative Rapp always scored high on our. We're always at the top of our scorecards.
Another group, the North Carolina Voters for Clean Elections, has done scorecards in the past on the issue of money in politics, and that's another valuable resource.
Yes, sir, way in the back.
My name is Barry Summers, and I want to thank Rob for mentoring the water issue. Everyone knows that there's a study committee process that Representative McGrady is part of that's looking at the water issue. And the League of Women Voters is having a forum next Monday. That's been announced on the Mountain Express and so forth. There's another group, Mountain Voices Alliance, has just decided to hold a second forum on issues that may not be addressed at this first forum, because it's a huge issue, obviously. So there's little flyers here on all the tables, and it's got a web address. If you want to get the information on both of these forums, please go to this website. My question is for Rob. Something that's sort of parallel to the water issue, it's not directly related, but is the movement in the legislature to look very seriously at privatization of state-owned assets. And I know that you wrote about the last meeting of that committee. Can you talk about where that stands?
Yeah, I wrote about that a couple of weeks ago. It's something that's sort of been a little bit under the radar. One of the things that the new General Assembly has done is they've created a whole raft of new study committees, a lot of them on the House side, which tends to be the most extreme side. And they just sort of, if a right-wing legislator's got a cause, he can have a study committee on it. And one of the study committees, it's being led by one of your local legislators, is this study committee on, I don't even remember the official name, but it's basically about selling off public assets. They're talking about models that have been used in other states of selling off museums, roads.
Partnerships.
Yeah, public-private partnerships. That's the official name. They've got a high-paid lawyer out of Richmond who does this all over the country, and he's recommending that they set up an office, a state office of public-private partnerships, or a state office of selling off public assets. Basically, it's all part of this same model. It's unclear how far that's going to get in the short session that's coming up this spring. I'm hopeful maybe not very far. But if we have another cycle of this same type of General Assembly, perhaps with a governor who then supports it, I think it's quite likely it could get traction, and we could see even more headed down this road. You know, the state of Arizona sort of is the bellwether for this. They actually sold off the state capitol building. They lease it back from a private company. So you never know how far it'll go.
Hi, I'm Lael Gray, and I'm just curious, you guys might have a different view than we have here in Asheville because you have been traveling around the state, I assume, and talking to other groups around the state, and I'm just curious what your sense is about sentiments around the state. You know, when you're in Asheville, it's very easy to get sort of, you know, we're all sort of, a lot of us are of a common mind, and we've now been disenfranchised as voters due to the redistricting, and so I'm really curious now that I'm in a new district, a new voting district, or potentially in a new voting district, what the rest of my district seems to feel about these things, or what they know about these radical legislators. And so I wanted to get an idea from you of what you're hearing from the general feeling in the state outside of Asheville.
Well, yeah, we had a luncheon the other day and I commend the website publicpolicypolling.com. It's based in Raleigh. Tom Jensen he's just a treasure in the state of North Carolina, an amazing, nationally acclaimed, recognized pollster he had a poll yesterday on Duke and Carolina fans. He's polled everything in North Carolina. If there's an issue, he's polled it. And his findings, as he spoke at our luncheon last weekend, were that, in general, when you ask people on the issues, you ask them, for instance, about should we have done away with the sales tax last year, people are generally, they tilt progressive. They're not happy with the specific issues that the General Assembly has pursued over the last year. But these are times of great discontent. The new ultra-perfected gerrymandered districts make it very difficult to see how the General Assembly is going to change hands next session, but it could. There's a court challenge still proceeding. The generic ballot tilts slightly Democratic if you ask voters where they are right now, and that wasn't the case 2 years ago. So I think it's safe to say that there has been a major sea change, that voters are having a lot of buyer's remorse. They didn't vote for this radical General Assembly, but the outcome, for instance, of the 2012 election is far from certain. It's going to be a very close election, no matter who the Democrats nominate for governor, it'll be close. And North Carolina is basically one of 4 states that will decide whether President Obama gets reelected or not. And there's going to be a lot of money put into North Carolina. So nobody should forget to vote anyway in 2012, because you're going to be absolutely bombarded.
And just to your point, I mean, that's one reason that we're going around the state, and we were in Fayetteville last night and going to Winston tomorrow, and talking about adding some more cities so that we can go out and make sure that folks understand that these legislators aren't carrying out the agenda that most people want. Yes, sir, in the back.
I've got a question for the group. We've been talking about working class. How many people in this group identify themselves as working class? Thank you. How many of the group identify themselves as middle class?
Yeah.
Only one hand.
I'll say when I talk about working folks, I'm talking about all of us, because, I mean, it's the whole 99% thing.
The drive behind my question was the base. The folks in North Carolina who are, quote, right to work, working class, how do we reach them? How do we reach the folks who pulled out for the Tea Party? How do we reach the folks who are blue dog Democrats? Forget the word. What is the mechanism? What is the mechanism to reach our base? You know, I saw a wonderful firefighter. Thank you very much for all the work you do. But how do we reach out to the folks who blame the victims for the crime?
Well, and that's one thing the labor movement does. I mean, certainly we get our union members talking to, you know, their colleagues and their co-workers about the economic issues and encouraging them to vote their wallet rather than getting distracted by social issues. One positive development here in North Carolina is nationally the AFL-CIO has an organization called Working America. It's designed to do just that, to reach working class folks, the middle of the road voters, to have conversations with them. It's a canvassing operation, door to door, having one-on-one conversations with folks, talking about the economic issues. And they've had great success in other states because, you know, once you talk to people and you cut through the Fox News and the Rush Limbaugh crap, they understand, and then they tend to vote in their self-interest. And so Working America has just started an operation in North Carolina. Right now it's mainly in the Triad, but we hope that eventually they can fan out. And I agree with you. I mean, I've been telling the progressive movement forever that they have ignored working class folks to their peril. We have got to find a way to reach working class folks, particularly white working class folks.